I was talking with my friend Dave the other night. We were talking about this idea of what is cancel culture and how should Christians react to it and what is it doing to society. And he said something that kind of floored me for a second. He said, well, as Christians, we already do this. As soon as someone inside of the Christian realm sins or does something wrong, we just basically get rid of them and everything that they are about. You know, like they never said anything good or never did anything good. It made me think of another band that had kind of this happen to them, and I've never thought about it this way. You see, my friend Marc Stichion introduced me to this band called Fee, this worship band, and they released 2 fantastic worship albums, and we sang them in our church together, and they're great, and I still listen to them all, but nobody plays the songs anymore because unfortunately the lead singer, left his wife and cheated on his wife, so we just basically got rid of it altogether. This happens over and over again. There's another great song called Healer that was released by Planet Shakers that just basically has been wiped off the face of the earth. You never hear anymore. And I understand what the background of that, if you want to go look at it, is hard. But the song is so, so good. If somebody does something wrong, does that negate all the good that they do? I think about it with Lauren Daigle right now. Like, a lot of people don't like certain things that she's done, said, or hasn't stood up for. Well, does that negate all the good she's done? Does that negate, if that's the case, if you believe that and you struggle with that, does that negate that the Holy Spirit was there writing with her in her songs, if we believe that the Holy Spirit inspired them in a way of allowing us to come worship? Should we worship with her songs anymore? Now, I don't think they're written by God, but we believe the Holy Spirit flows out of us, and music by Fee and Lauren Daigle, I can still worship to, even if I don't like what he did, or if I don't like somebody's opinion on something. What if I was to tell you that Peter was not a good guy? Like, he constantly got it wrong, and we still read his gospel, but kind of with Mark, or we read his books. Paul said he had a thorn in the flesh, and a lot of people believe that that's an ongoing sin. Whatever your take is, I don't care, but should that mean you shouldn't read Paul's work? Or is your argument, well, they're the Holy Spirit? Do you know that your pastor sins? If you have 2 pastors on staff, statistically, one of them looks at porn on the regular basis, because it's about 49% of pastors would say they look at porn on the regular basis. Does that mean they're still not doing a good work? Does that mean we shouldn't help them, come alongside them, build them up if they fall? Or do we idolize these people and idolize them because they become celebrities? So we like to tear our celebrities down. You know what? I disagree with this idea as Christians that we should get rid of their works just because we disagree with one thing. I'll be honest with you, I don't agree with Matt Chandler or Mark Driscoll all that often, but I have learned from them so much. Because just because I don't completely agree with everything they say doesn't mean that I write them completely off. Hey, I may not like your theology as a musician. You may even write some songs that I don't like and I think have bad theology. But that means that I don't just write them off because of that. Just because they're bringing me to worship, it's about God. It's not about them. Just because they're broken human beings doesn't mean that what they have produced for God is bad. To me, I just want to bring this idea up because I do struggle with one song. And I've been in conversations about this with people, especially with the Lauren Daigle one recently. But I struggle, me personally, with Amazing Grace. I heard somebody talk once on a sermon called The Disgrace of Amazing Grace. And ever since then, I have really struggled with the song. But the song has done so much wonderful stuff to so many people. I know that God is still in it. The background of Amazing Grace is the author, the person who wrote the song, got saved and he was a slave trader. He would, take the boat from Africa to America or back to Great Britain. And the story behind his salvation goes that he was on the boat once and he had slaves and a bunch of cargo, and there was a giant storm, and he reached out to God to be saved, and the boat was spared and everything else was spared, and he was so happy that was his conversion story. And for the next 4 years, we're told that he still worked in the slave trade, never doing anything about it. And in the process, this is where he started writing Amazing Grace. Does that mean that the song is bad? Now, the person who composed the song wound up working with William Wilberforce to help get the slave trade ended, but because it was started on a slave trade, it still hurts me some to say that this is where he thought Amazing Grace was at the time. Sometimes I really struggle with the song, but I also know that God does wonderful things through the song. So where is the give and the take? Where is it when it comes to people like Fee? Where is it when it comes to somebody you don't disagree with? A pastor that you don't understand? Can you learn from a pastor that you don't completely agree with, or that you know has sin? Because all of them do. Or are you willing to put your life in God's hand and not in these people that do things that allow us to lead us to God? If you look behind us, there are many books, and that's just a smidgen of the books in my house. And I know there are people in there that I just don't agree with, but their books are fantastic. I can learn from them. So are we really about canceling Christian culture because we don't agree with somebody? Or are we going to say that they are still working out their salvation with fear and trembling in the Lord, and we have to be able to use their gifts to amplify our lives and amplify our Christianity and amplify and magnify and worship our God? Because it bothers me when we think of ourselves as superiority. We have that superior. We don't struggle with that sin. We would do this better if we were in their situation. Oh, I would be a much better Christian if I was leading worship to thousands upon thousands of people. Oh, I wouldn't do this. When you've never walked a mile in their shoes, you don't know what's going on, and God hasn't called you to be them. So when you think about this idea of how Christians interact with the culture around them, especially with the idea of celebrity Christians, there's a difference between who that person is and the work that they are producing. Because I struggle with Paul's life sometimes. I struggle with Peter's life. I look at certain things in the Gospels and I'm like, these guys are just crazy. How do they do these type of things? Like, look at all the stuff that happened to Paul. And then look at like him appealing to Rome and seemingly wasting his life. Oh, they could have did it better. I don't care. I'm still going to glean from them the stuff that they've done because I know that God's blessed them. I'm still going to worship the certain songs, even though I know that the person that wrote that song struggles. Because God is not in the person. God is not in the author of the book. God is not in that preacher. They are just pointing us to a perfect and holy God.